Hello, everyone. My name is Jamison Gosselin, Vice President of Senior Living here at G5, and this is part 3 of our GMB Snackable Content webinar focused on how to leverage your GMB presence in uncertain times. This piece of content will focus on the latest news and changes to Google My Business since the coronavirus situation has impacted us. And I'm joined by Craig Branstad, our Solutions Architect for Senior Living, and Blake Adkins, our SEO Associate Manager for Senior Living. So we are finishing up here our third piece of content focused on the latest on GMB. Previous episodes focused on the features and functionality of GMB and the what's and whys of GMB. So we hope you'll tune into those if you want more information and best practices to leverage within your business. So Blake, clearly COVID-19 has had a substantial impact on the world. I think everyone has talked about it and will continue to talk about it for a long time to come. But Google My Business has made some very specific changes as it relates to addressing COVID-19. Can you walk us through a few of those things and what opportunities might be available for folks to leverage?
Yeah, so Google My Business, GMB, has been a very interesting space with the whole COVID-19 updates over the last month or so. We've honestly seen changes, I feel like, almost on a daily basis within the Google My Business platform. And some of the major updates that we saw was they actually suspended functionality for around 2 to 3 weeks. And what that looked like is they suspended review generation, as well as being able to respond to reviews. They suspended the ability to post events or updates about the business. And they also suspended the questions and answers functionality. So the interesting aspect, though, is, given all these challenges and all these updates, these are actually starting to creep back into our space. So Google released a statement a few days ago that's saying these are starting to return very gradually. So I would say reviews, posts, and question and answers are probably going to creep back into Google My Business over the next week or so. So functionality should be back to normal. Another aspect that was
the other thing that I wanted to make sure we hit upon was the change in response times for general clients. One of the things that I think the press was covering is that Google My Business and Google itself was prioritizing a lot of healthcare submissions, first hospitals, making sure that their information was up to date, and other, I guess, what was considered mission critical. We obviously had submitted some information to Google to present the case of senior living as being one of those entities. I think we were turned back on that. But I think there was some changes in sort of response times and things like that. Can you update us on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so response times, actually, they sent out a notification, I would say probably a month or so at the start of this, saying that there's going to be, extended delays to, making public edits, pushing out edits, and just changing anything with the Google My Business listing in general. So there wasn't a really strict timeline on it. They just said that expect, pretty significant delays as they work through their prioritized queue.
Okay, cool. And then what about on photos? So before the COVID situation started, I believe Google My Business was starting to reject photos and other things from their websites. Can you give us a little bit of color on that?
Yeah, so the whole photo thing, Google actually updated their image quality guidelines, and they're trying to really clean up how many images are obviously being indexed within Google and displayed within their image search results, but they're also clamping down really heavy on Google My Business. We used to use a lot of stock imagery when we would, push out photos of a community when we didn't necessarily have the assets at the time, as well as using stock photos for Google My Business posts. So we started to see across the board that if you're using stock imagery or images that broke Google's image quality guidelines, that they were starting to be rejected. So we're really stressing the importance of really providing those high quality assets at the beginning and using those assets on Google My Business as well as the website.
So it's really important for them to start thinking about their photo content authenticity. So looking at getting original photos for their property and the lifestyle photos that are so important, and not just throwing stock photography into those listings, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And then from a competitive standpoint, if they're really, spending the time and energy to provide those high quality assets, it's only going to set you apart from your competition.
Yeah, that's true in many ways. So it's, and then the nice thing about doing an authentic photo shoot, especially on the lifestyle side, is that you can leverage those photos in all of your marketing materials, not just Google My Business, but your website, direct mail, printing, marketing, print marketing, et cetera. So really kind of something to think about as a marketing team. But speaking of which, Craig, for clearly, if anyone can really get into Google My Business from a business standpoint. If you're a small business or a one property operator, you're probably going to want to claim your own Google My Business site. You can manage it from the back end of Google My Business and that sort of thing. But we obviously have a number of clients that we do a lot of the management of Google My Business listings for. And for those clients listening in, Craig, do you want to talk a little bit about how we've been improving upon the solutions that we've been offering on the client side?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Jamison, I want to take a second just to address what you just said about GMB and kind of everything that we've been talking about in these last three pieces of content here. And from a larger picture, from a global crisis pandemic of something like COVID-19 to just the regular, back to like a regular business day, is this really highlights that Google changes often and they change quickly. And so being able to pay attention to these changes, be it large algorithm changes to the way that their search queries work, to features and functionality within the GMB, like a Q&A or something of that nature. It's really important that we're paying attention to those and keeping your thumb on the pulse. And then that's obviously highlighted if something large like a COVID-19 pandemic breaks out, they're going to be changing things. So you really want to make sure that you are paying attention to these updates because they're vitally important for the success of the community and just communication in general. And when it comes to some of the enhancements that G5 has been looking at to keep in touch with GMB, there's two tools that we've rolled out actually just recently to help hone in on the importance of managing and measuring the impact of the Google My Business listing. The first one has to do with our ability to be able to report on call tracking numbers listed on the Google My Business listing. We have moved and adopted a product enhancement called reserved numbers. And essentially, without going into too much detail here, this is allowing us to push a true call tracking number to the GMB listing so that we can track how many calls are coming from the GMB listing and separate those out from other organic calls that may be generated from the search engine results page. And this is really important because as we talked about in previous sessions, there's a mobile first quality to GMBs. GMBs tend to be the first homepage that a prospective resident may interact with. So it's their first interaction with your brand. So being able to understand how many phone calls are coming from the search engine results page rather than someone navigating to the website is vitally important. And this is all done under not having to change anything to do with the listing, business listing and citation management side of it. There's the sort of the traditional, the old school way was to have a stagnant number that was hard coded and pushed out to these various platforms like Google My Business as the true blue citation phone number. This reserved numbers enhancement, which is, I should say, has been developed in partnership with Google, still allows us to maintain the citation authority while being able to measure the success of the Google My Business presence on the search engine results page. The other one is our location information tool. And this is an application that's available to our current clients inside of the G5 environment that allows them to change and manipulate operating hours and things of that nature right there at their fingertips. So there's no need to go through a support agent or an account manager to make quick and easy updates to your GMB listing. This can be accessed through your dashboard, and then the information that you change, again, mostly relating to business hours of when someone might be actually staffing a front desk, can be altered and changed and then pushed out to the GMB programmatically so that you can do that on the fly as operational changes come down.
Very good. Thank you, Craig, for that update. Well, guys, this was a lot of fun. If folks watching the webinar have questions or thoughts, feel free to reach out to us. We hope you'll be able to watch all 3 snackable pieces of content. And of course, again, if any questions or thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, everyone.